Okay. Welcome. So we have a small group. Jesse and Melissa, I am Dana, and Deirdre is, I'm a dietitian, and Deirdre is an occupational therapist. And we kind of just wanted to open it up for questions, scenarios that you guys might have going on. We can chat about other things later, but we had kind of hoped that this was just going to be an open forum of thoughts or questions that you guys had. So if anybody has anything burning that they would like to ask, you are free to do so.
Melissa, do you want to start?
Sure.
Melissa and I know each other, so.
Oh, super.
Yeah, good. Yeah, I was like,
she's a music therapist too, Dana. So
Oh,
we went to school together.
nice.
yes. And Jesse knows a lot about my situation already anyway.
Well, it's one big happy family then. Great.
Yes. Yes. And in fact, we just had I wrote, we have a 27-month-old, when I signed up, and it's like, oh yeah, I will also have an infant at the time of the video. So I have a newborn where he's a week old today.
Oh my goodness.
And actually I have one too. He's 4 weeks old.
Are you serious?
Serious.
Oh, congratulations, everyone.
Oh my goodness.
Oh,
Just like Toby.
just like Toby.
How old is Toby?
He's 2.5.
Okay, so you have a lot of similarities.
I
I have twin boy girl twins that Dana came and saw Ellie, my girl twin. So
Okay.
Yeah, we seem to have all the things in common. Our babies are exactly the same ages.
Well,
Though I
have
have
a partner in crime.
Yes. Yeah, we bounce a lot of ideas off of each other, and Jessie helps me a lot because she's a little bit ahead of me, and and I tend to have a lot of questions about my 2-year-old because he is a super picky eater.
Okay.
Which is why we wanted to come today and ask some questions about what we can try, because we've been trying everything that we've read in the like the pamphlet we got from Angie, our parents as teachers person, and he just seems to be getting more and he's singing in the back. He's supposed to be napping, but I can hear him singing upstairs, and it's kind of funny.
You get Zoom at home, right?
Yeah. So anyway, he seems to be getting pickier and pickier as time goes on. He kind of started well with solids, and now he definitely has his list of here's the 10 things that he eats. And
I was trying to count them in my head earlier. 10's probably about the right number.
Okay.
I'm not really sure.
When did
But
you start
it's like,
picky? How old was he when he started with the pickiness?
well, so he was in daycare when he was before COVID, and they were the first ones to kind of tell me about, like, you're sending these purees of carrots and things, and he's not wanting carrots, he's not wanting. So they were the first ones to alert me to different vegetables that he was just spitting out at school. So even from that early like puree stage, and then we started into solids, and he was kind of trying some meats and stuff at school, but they would tell me at school, like, oh, he does not eat bananas. Oh, he does not, like, it was not just at home, it was everywhere that he wasn't eating certain things. And then it seems like some of the, like, it was day to day or week to week that he'd be like, I like eggs today. And then the next day we give him eggs and wouldn't eat them. So,
or rice. Most recently, loved rice, but then yesterday, no thank you.
Yeah,
that sort of thing.
Yeah, and he's very polite about it. He'll say no thank you, no thank you.
That's better than throwing it.
Yeah, so we try to put things on his plate that he's not interested in. He's never been like, he's never thrown food, or like, I don't know, most of the time he just ignores it, or he just says no thank you, no thank you, no thank you.
Yeah, and I'll say that the prevailing wisdom that we have been able to find online is like, continue to offer it, the thing that you want him to eat, and then put that with something that he will eat, and eventually he'll just say, oh, I guess I'm supposed to eat both of these things. But he's 27 months now, and we've been doing that for 2 years, and
Okay.
he's never taken the other thing. I'm going to eat the thing that I like, and
then he'll say he's done. And the other thing is reducing the snacks between,
Mhm.
and we try to do that a reasonable amount. I like him to have like a small amount when we're traveling or something at that snack time of, we'll have like a small amount of goldfish or pretzels or something, and then like a very watery apple juice, mostly water. And that's kind of a typical snack for him, but and that's like never less than, I would say usually it's like an hour and a half before a meal.
Okay. Okay.
So that's what we're trying.
What is his appetite like?
for the things he will, he gets it from me, because for the things I like, I can pound food, and he's in the same boat. For the things he will eat, I think he eats a lot, and
Okay.
he's what, 90th ish percentile in
Okay.
weight. So he's not.
He's a big boy.
He's
yeah.
big.
Every time we go into the pediatrician, he says, well, he's proportional. So do what you're doing and don't worry about it.
Okay.
It's like, but
Yeah, he subsists off like whole milk and the couple of other things that he'll actually eat. But those things, yeah, he'll have a lot.
How
How
much
much
milk
milk is
does he drink?
Yeah, I'm gonna measure how big these cups are, so we can provide that in.
So in the morning, he's a good breakfast eater, loves breakfast.
Okay.
Any breakfast foods pretty much except for meat and eggs, like all the carby breakfast foods.
Okay.
A 7-ounce. So he has a full cup in the morning usually, because he eats that along with his breakfast. And then throughout the day, it kind of depends on how much protein is in his meal. For us, if he didn't eat anything, like he'll have Greek yogurt sometimes for lunch, and then I won't give him a lot of milk. But if he didn't eat anything, then with protein specifically, then at snack time, I'll give him like a half cup of milk with his crackers.
Okay.
To kind of supplement, because I'm just worried about the ratio there.
Okay.
And same thing for after. It's either at dinner or after dinner. We're not always the same. Just, again, depending on what he's eating for dinner, we'll either give him a half cup at the end of the meal if he's eaten well but still seeming hungry,
Mm-hmm.
or if he really struggled with dinner and I don't know, what would you say for milk at night? How consistent are we?
Oh, I mean, most nights I would say.
He has how much?
If that's 7-ounce cup, I'd say he has about 4 ounces.
Okay.
That total for the day? I mean,
Yeah.
it's like 14 ounces basically total is kind of what I was counting. A half a cup at
Yeah.
dinner and lunchtime. And then does he have anything else after that, like before bedtime or anything? Any other milk?
Not usually.
Okay.
Usually at night, like if sometimes we'll
sometimes
do
you'll
like
have
a
water.
half with dinner and a half after dinner. So we might have a full 7 ounces. So I guess that's 14. At max, he would have like 16, 17 in a day.
Okay. That's a very normal amount of milk.
Okay.
Sometimes when parents, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, sometimes when the reason that we both ask this question is sometimes when kids aren't eating, the parents are giving them milk because they're concerned. And we might find out that they're drinking like 40 ounces of milk. So he's drinking an appropriate amount, but it's always a good question to ask because if they're drinking obviously that much milk, then they don't want to eat, but that's not the case with your son. So
Yeah. Well, and thanks for helping us count that up, because I guess we really haven't done the math.
okay.
Yes.
Not something you'd be normally asked to count.
No. So what does it look like when you offer him food? How does that go?
So we have a plate with a divide,
Okay.
and we'll give him like something fruit in one, and then something like rice, plain rice with maybe like a little dabble of soy sauce because he likes special sauces on stuff sometimes to make them exciting. And then we'll supplement with like, I don't know. We're not always good about putting the vegetables on the plate, but when we do, it'll be like salsa with chips, or because that's again like a sauce. So he likes the sauce type things, the dips, or like Greek yogurt with it.
Yeah, in terms of actual like vegetables that I've seen him eat, they're all the ones that are like, they only count as vegetables technically, the ones that you wouldn't be like super excited about. He'll eat corn sometimes. Has he eaten potatoes in the past?
No.
Not really. Okay. Pretty much nothing. Is this short summary? I can't think of it.
And I'll put some little pieces of meat because we eat a lot of meat. So I'll put some on his plate, but he's usually pretty grossed out and wants those away from his other food.
Yeah.
Has he ever had any issues with chewing?
Nope.
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Sometimes kids who have a hard time chewing don't like meat because it's a lot of work to chew.
And we've been able to sneak it in like chicken fried rice. Sometimes we'll watch him eat chicken fried rice and he doesn't know there's chicken in there and he will just go to town.
Okay.
So that's one recent thing we have figured out. But then when we were gone at the hospital having the baby, we left the leftovers of what he was eating, all of it. And
He grew wise to the chicken in there.
he figured us out. And for my mom and my sister who are babysitting him, he started picking out all the pieces of chicken and then grew less interested in the fried rice.
Okay.
So
You said he's 27 months old?
yeah.
How self-sufficient is he? Like he's feeding himself? Can he use utensils?
Yep.
Yeah, he's been using a fork and spoon successfully since he was like extremely young.
Okay. Have you guys ever tried to do any family style serving?
Help me understand family style serving.
You put stuff in a big serving plate and
Okay.
you pass it around and put what you want on your plate and leave the rest.
Including him, I don't think we've ever done that.
Okay, so from what you've talked about, have you ever heard of the name Ellen Satter? Does that ring a bell for you at all?
Oh, me.
Okay,
Maybe.
it's very similar to what you're talking about. So
I think Jesse might have brought it up.
yeah, she has a great little philosophy of feeding kids, and it's called the division of responsibility. So basically, her philosophy is that everybody has meals at the table. No, everybody has rules at the table. And like your job and your rule is that you guys decide what kids are offered, when it's offered, and where it's offered. And the kids decide if they're going to participate and how much they're going to participate. So within that philosophy, you always make sure that there's one thing that you know that they like, which you're doing. It sounds like you're making sure that he's always coming to the table and there's something there that you're pretty confident that he's going to like. And then how much of mealtime, like, are you guys with him at mealtime? Are you guys eating?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you eating the same stuff as him at mealtime?
No.
Not
Okay,
always.
so two different-
It's like in the case of fried rice, yes, but
Yeah. As much
There's-
as we can.
So
that's the exception.
okay. So it doesn't sound like there's anything medical going on. It doesn't sound like he had like a medical history. Did he ever
No.
have reflux as an infant?
Not to speak of, no.
Okay. Does he have a lot of constipation or diarrhea issues?
No.
Okay. No
Okay.
food allergies that you can think of or notice?
Mm-mm.
Okay. So her philosophy works really, really great for 2.5-year-olds. He's to the point where he knows what he wants and knows what he doesn't want. He's probably super capable of telling you yes and no. Like, I want that, but I don't want that.
Mhm.
It sounds like it's hard to get him to eat something new,
Very true.
which is always going to be hard no matter what 2.5-year, even a good eater, you can't get them to eat. They only eat if they want to, if they think they're going to like it. If it seems like something that they are up for the task for. So within her philosophy, like you guys would only make one meal, but you would make sure that there's something at that table that you are 90% confident he will eat. And you offer that one thing along with the rest of the family selections. You ask him if he wants all of the things. So you said you eat a lot of meat. So like chicken, what would be like, what'd you have for dinner last night, you guys?
Chicken noodle soup, leftovers.
Okay, super. So you had chicken noodle soup. And is that
Mhm.
something you think he would like or not like?
Honestly, if he had it, I think he would like it.
Would he? That's a bad question. That he is willing to eat at this point or not?
No
willing?
chance.
Okay. Okay. So you guys would all sit together and you would have the chicken noodle soup out and you would make sure that there was like one, maybe two other things at the table that you think that he'll eat. Because we always want him to come to the table confident that there's going to be something there I like. I'm going to be full when it's done. I might only eat one thing, but I'm going to be content when I leave the table. And so if you know that milk is a thing he likes, that's one thing. If you know, we didn't really talk about his list, but name something that you know he likes.
Rice,
Okay.
Yeah, rice, Greek yogurt.
oatmeal bars, or
Yeah. Chips
Even
and
if you
dip.
think it's junk food.
actually oatmeal, huh?
Even if you think it's junk food, it all counts.
Oh,
Well, chips and dip I would call junk food. And then a bunch of snacky things like pretzels and whatever. We don't have those.
Orange. He eats lots of mandarin
True.
oranges, fruit
Okay.
cups.
Okay. So you have chicken noodle soup, pretzels, and mandarin oranges at the table. And you guys are all eating your soup and you're passing it around. You ask him if he wants it. And when he tells you no, you just move on. Okay, it's all right, buddy. You don't have to eat it. And then you pass around the pretzels and everybody takes what they want. And you pass around the mandarin oranges and everybody takes what they want. And you ask him, do you want it? And if he says yes, then you either let him serve himself, and if he's capable of doing that, or you help him get it on his plate. And so then as they learn that mom and dad aren't going to make me eat, they're not going to ask me to eat, they're not going to tell me to take a bite, they're not going to move my plate a little bit closer to maybe entice me to put a little bit of something in my mouth, and they're just going to let me eat what I'm going to eat. It really, I know you've heard this a million times and you've been trying for 2.5 years, but the key to it is that you don't encourage them. You just flatly say, would you like it? And you accept their refusal. And they will test you. Like I would venture to guess that he will say no often initially, but you're not getting him to eat it anyway. So you're not really losing that much ground. He'll still eat the stuff he likes. And then as he learns over time that this is what it's going to look like, they eventually come around and they start eating. How often do you feel like you ask him to take a bite or ask him to perform in some way at the table?
At this point, I'd say, at least me, almost every day.
For me, I've tried to back off from what's intuitive because my family was definitely the guilt trippers and like the like you're not leaving the table till you eat a bite of these vegetables, or like my parents were very insistent on you will eat what you are served. And so it's hard for, like, I've had to step back a lot. But and now I feel like I'm too easy on him. So it's
why do you think you're too easy?
Well, because he gets a separate plate of his, like we prepare his plate of stuff that's mostly not stuff that we're eating. And
okay. So then I feel like this is a little combination of the way that you grew up without the requirement of eating. So you guys decide what's at the table. And if last night was chicken noodle soup and tonight is spaghetti, I don't know, then that's what the mealtime is. But you make sure that there's something alongside that mealtime that you know he likes. So you're not making him an entirely different meal. Her philosophy does not include making 2 main dishes. So you don't make spaghetti and chicken nuggets. You make spaghetti with a side that you know he likes. So if he likes bread, you have bread and butter at the table. And if he eats an entire loaf of bread at a mealtime, he eats an entire loaf of bread at mealtime. And then as you let them fill up on the stuff that they know that they like, eventually those things become less coveted. And then the other stuff is there and it eventually ends up on their plate, especially when you ask them consent to put it on their plate in the first place.
That's what I was going to
Okay.
say. So you're not preparing his plate before you go to the table. You're at the table with him, and then you guys are all taking things.
Yeah, that's the big difference that I'm hearing here from what we've ever tried before is we
Yeah, it's
typically
usually we get his food ready and then we go make our food and that sort of stuff.
actually we all like we're gonna have to think about how we're already doing mealtime because we tend to we're meal preppers, like we'll divide the pan into fourths and we'll like put it in for leftovers for lunch, and so our plates are already all three made by the time they come to the table.
Right. And right now in your world, you have a new baby.
Yeah.
And so it's a little trickier to make a meal at a mealtime, right? Because you've got a lot of stuff going on. So how can we finagle that to make it? You can still have the food prep. Yeah, that's.
I mean, you know, we could still do the family style stuff and then just package what's left over rather than pre-packaging things.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we can eat on this table. Well, we have a bigger table and then a smaller, kind of more of a quick
Like I feel like most people do.
meal.
It's a dining table that gets used once a week, and then the place where you eat most of your food, which is a smaller table in the kitchen.
Right.
Yeah, but this table we're sitting.
Sorry,
Oh, sorry.
could you prepackage it and then just serve it to yourself from your prepackaged plate? So it'd be another set of dishes, but it would be the same concept, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
One
Yeah,
thing that I heard you say too is that he likes the special sauces. So I would use that to your advantage and offer him also ketchup and salsa and with things that you think he might not try, because if he had that sauce, he might be more willing to try it. And there's nothing wrong with salsa and ketchup and those sort of things.
Yeah. Honey, syrup.
Super. Those things are all
Fair
wonderful.
that the beans might go in the syrup, but that's okay.
And her
Okay.
her theory doesn't make one food better than another. So this philosophy doesn't have room for food shame or food approval. It's just whatever you have at the table and whatever you're serving yourselves as a family is perfect and wonderful. And we just want him to adapt to what you want to do as a family instead of doing all of this making separate food nonsense, because your food is great. And if sometimes dinner is chicken nuggets because that's what he likes, that's fine. But it's not always, you're not always making meals based on what you think he might eat in the moment. But you're making sure that there's something there. And then you accept that he might eat a whole lot of it. When we went to this conference, there were 4 of us that went. 2 of us don't have kids and the other 2 do have kids. And so the 2 that do have kids decided that they weren't going to ask our families to do anything that they couldn't implement on their own. So one of the OTs has a daughter who's like 7 or 8 or something like that, who loves bread, like loves it more than anything in this whole wide world. So when she came home, she started this process and literally put a bag of Hawaiian rolls on the table, a whole bag. And the first night, the little girl ate like 11 of them. And the whole time, Megan's like, it's okay, you can eat as much as you want, like biting her tongue and hyperventilating inside because you're not supposed to eat 11 rolls for dinner, right? And so she just kept eating them and she just kept eating them. And then by like the next night, she was eating like 7. And by, the night after that, it was like 5. And now she's down to a very normal, like 1 or 2. And she's, like when you present the pretzels and he eats a bowl full of pretzels the first couple of times because you're saying, it's okay, you can eat whatever you want. You don't have to eat anything you don't want to eat. that eventually becomes less satisfying and less fun
Mhm.
over time. And it's hard to, it sounds weird for a dietitian to tell you if you eat a whole box of pretzels at dinner, that's fine, that's your choice. But the point is that by letting him do that and letting him become confident about mealtime, that's not going to be his normal forever.
Hmm.
And they eventually come
Confidence.
around to expansion.
And it
Yeah,
also
and-
takes away that power struggle between you and him.
That's been the big issue, especially as of late, at least in my mind, was when we brought home the newborn. Yeah, we had a absolute, his first, what I would call like a 2-year-old tantrum about food.
Oh yeah,
And
I wasn't there.
yeah, you weren't there. And it was just, it was one of the things from the checklist of 10 things he'll eat, it was just white rice with soy sauce on it, which actually, no, it happened
Yeah.
twice, because it was that and there was the yogurt incident. Both of them resulted in top 10 worst tantrums I've ever seen out of him, easily, probably top 1 and 2, frankly. But
Well, this week's
it's been rough.
It's different.
This
Kids-
week is
different.
different, for sure.
I agree, but the point there is that even if it's one of the foods that we think he will like, sometimes it's still no, or things we know he likes, if he just would take one bite. But
Would
it's
you
a flat out
suggest
refusal.
giving like a choice then of 2 preferred sides or something?
That's kind of where I'm going is,
So no, because you don't want him to start calling the shots, because your job is to come to the table with the food, because he's not able to menu plan. Like he's not capable of doing that task. So you come to the table with his rice or whatever it is, alongside the chicken and the broccoli, whatever it is that you guys are eating, and it's all presented as one unit and one meal, and you're asking him what he wants, and you just allow him to say no. And then and if he literally chooses to eat nothing in a meal, which could happen, because when you start doing this process,
Yeah.
so when you start doing this process with kids his age, the first thing they're going to do is test you to see if you're serious and if you mean it and if you're being honest.
Yeah.
So if you sit down and you're like, you can eat whatever you want and you can leave the rest, and he eats 4 pretzels and drinks 4 ounces of milk, and he's like, nope, I'm done, I'm good. And you're saying, it's okay, buddy, you don't have to eat. You can do whatever you want. And then mealtime is over. The consequence to that action is that he's going to be hungry, assuming that there's no medical problem that's keeping him from being hungry, which it doesn't sound like there is.
there's
No.
not.
Going to be hungry. And then the tricky part is that you don't let him just, like if your mealtime is done and you've cleaned everything up and 10 minutes later, he's like, oh, I'm hungry. Sorry, we had dinner a little bit ago, but we'll have a snack in a little while. So you have a break in between, because you don't want him to learn that 10 minutes after mom and dad clean up the table, I can go back and get a snack.
Yeah.
He's gonna figure that out too. So
Yeah.
you elongate it as long as you can, and then you have him sit down and have a snack. And the goal is to make it like 2.5 hours or something like that.
Okay.
He
So
seems incongruent with the snacks that he can always reach thing.
Well,
yeah.
he hasn't been self-serving actually, he's been pretty good about it because he can't open the jars in the snack cabinet. We try to keep it at his level so he can like get his own water and pick a snack from there.
So
But
getting your own water is fantastic, but you really want him on a mealtime routine.
Yeah.
Like really setting up space times where he knows that mom and dad are going to faithfully feed me at breakfast time, at snack
And
time.
I think that we do that.
Okay.
So, and it's good to hear that it's okay then what we're kind of, or at least what I think I'm hearing is that it's okay that we're at dinner trying our best and then giving him some like quite a bit of time before that like milk, like this much milk with the bedtime story or something.
Yeah.
That's okay still, you think?
Yeah.
Okay.
And he may even benefit from a bedtime snack.
Hmm.
I mean, he's 2.5 years old. He's a growing kid.
Yeah.
especially if he's at the 90th percentile. Is he pretty tall too?
At least. Yeah. 99.
He's 99 in height.
Okay, so he's a large individual for his age, which
Yeah.
means that it's entirely possible that he needs more calories than and it's not necessarily true either. Like it can swing in a lot of directions for any kid, but physiology might state that if you're at the 99th percentile and you're growing because you're 2.5 years old, you could potentially need more food than a kid who's at the 45th percentile on both.
Yeah.
So, and kids need bedtime snacks. If there's time between, if you have dinner early enough that there's a couple of hours before bed, it's very reasonable to have a snack
Okay.
for sure. Like
Good to know.
kids their age eat like 5 or 6 times a day.
Okay. Yeah, that's one thing we've been feeling kind of guilty about. Like, should we be offering that milk afterwards? Is it a cop out that he knows he can get out of dinner and then have that later? But it is so much later.
Yeah,
He doesn't go to bed
it's probably
early
not.
enough,
It's
probably.
probably not good anyway.
One thing that I was thinking too, when you're asking about if you should give the choices, I think choices are great outside of the high chair. So giving him all kinds of choices about things you don't really care about. Do you want to wear the shirt with the car or the shirt with the dinosaur? Do you want to put your
Yeah.
shoes on or do you want mommy to put your shoes on? So giving him lots of choices and lots of control outside of the high chair or at the table. So then when you get to the table, there's not so much of a power struggle, because kids can control what they eat. They can't control a lot of things in their lives. They can control when they go to the bathroom, which can make potty training a struggle, and what they eat. And that's about it for these little guys. So we want to give them choices in other areas.
And you can even give them, it does not matter what set of silverware he eats with. It does not matter one bit what plate he eats off of. You can, if he likes to have that much control, let him choose what plate he's eating off of. Let him choose what silverware he's eating with. Who cares? Doesn't matter.
Yeah. He does like that control. He does.
He
And he already does choose. I don't want this one. I want a fork.
Okay, great. Buddy, have a fork. Fantastic. Pudding
Yeah.
is hard to eat with a fork, but go for it.
Yeah. He
Is
really
he
knows
in a
what he
booster or
wants.
a high chair?
It's a high chair. It's like it's attached to our chairs. Like
Okay.
it sits.
Yeah, like a
So,
little
yeah.
booth, kind of.
Yeah, and he'll eat without the tray sometimes. It's
Perfect.
just
Yeah, pull him up to the table. Let him be a part of the meal.
okay. Yeah, I don't think we really need the tray. We could
Probably not.
Yeah, get rid of it.
Okay. That's a good
I
thought.
feel like that gave
He
you some-
likes to strap in. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Do you feel like that gave you some ideas or some things for you guys to try?
I do. Thank you. I think it reinforced some things that we're doing and also gave us new ideas. So that feels awesome.
And the phrase, it's okay, you don't have to eat it, is probably the most powerful phrase you can ever use at the table. Like it immediately takes all of the pressure away. It takes all of the stress away. You know that you've come to the table offering foods that you hope someday that he will try, along with stuff that you know that he likes. And if you've done that, your job is done and you can sit down and eat your meal and let him decide what he's going to put into his body.
Okay.
And
Cool.
in several weeks, I mean, it's nothing about feeding is quick, but like 4 or 5 weeks down the road, you could be noticing a significant difference in how he handles mealtime.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he handles the change in baby, change in
A lot.
mealtime. It's going to have to happen, but maybe in a way it's kind of good if it happens together because his world's already
Topsy-turvy.
different
Mhm.
right now. While keeping some things in our lives the same, but we know that mealtime does need to change. And it'll be different for us too.
Mhm.
Right now, we're dealing with leftovers.
Well, and I think just accepting that for him, it is going to be difficult, just like it is for us to make changes. So, like Dana said, he's going to push back. And don't be afraid of that. It'll get worse before it gets better. Because it's something.
Okay. Well, thank you. That gives me lots of good ideas. I think I had another question or two, but I want to give Jessie time. She has.
And if you
I wanted to hear more. I knew you'd probably be talking about the Ellen Satter stuff, and I'll be honest, Toby and Ellie are pretty good eaters. I was more wanted to hear, you answered some things that I had questions about that are very, very minor. Dana, we're doing great. Ellie's still like less than first percentile, but she's 20 pounds.
So I think this is a great example of the difference between kids. So Melissa, you've got a 99th percentile kid, and Jesse, you have a 1 percentile kid, and they're both healthy.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Well, and we found Ian is the third, and he had his 1 month appointment today, and he's right smack dab in the middle on weight, and then he's apparently 90th percentile in height. So completely different than my other two. And he's eating great, like nursing and everything. But yeah, my one question I was going to ask is, we don't do family style, but we really haven't ever like they will eat a lot of things, and we do accept the days that we know they like things, but then some days they're just not going to eat anything, or all they're going to eat is their yogurt at breakfast and nothing else. But one thing I was curious, and Deidre, you might have as an OT some suggestions too. Toby has some like sensory. It's not that he doesn't want, like he'll try it, like he'll taste it, but like things like bananas and oatmeal and some other thing like pancakes with blueberries in them, like things and it's like he eats plenty of other foods, so I'm not concerned about like any of that sort of thing. But and it might be something he'll just grow out of. But if there's any tricks or ideas on how to introduce like foods like that and get him to try it, like he just flat out won't eat bananas or oatmeal. He knows, and we just accept that. But I just was curious if you guys had any ideas for that sort of thing.
So kind of what I think about when people talk about sensory things is we all have sensory differences. And basically, when we start talking about those and trying to find some ways to help children is when it's really affecting their life. So, a lot of people, I know I have a few things that I won't eat. And if it's not really affecting his life and his nutrition, I would say let it go for now. And he may outgrow it and he may not, but that's okay.
And similarly, like at daycare, she serves a lot of casseroles and things. And we do some of that, but we also tend to we'll make chicken and broccoli and rice, and like things are more separated. And so he has a lot harder time eating the things that are mixed up, which I know that's kind of typical of a lot of kids, but we probably need to do more of those sorts of things. And when he's hungry, he will eat, just like what you were saying with the Ellen Satter stuff. He will, and letting him choose, because he won't eat anything at daycare, and then he'll come home and he'll eat 2 whole hamburgers or something. So anyways, go on. Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, the other thing I was just thinking too, what made me wonder this is when you said he has trouble with the mixed things. Has he ever had any trouble with chewing or swallowing or with textures as a baby?
No, we have to tell him to take little bites because he will just stuff everything in his mouth. It's not to the point of being afraid or anything like that, but we have to remind him to make sure that he's chewing before he swallows. He's never choked, none of that sort of thing. But as far as I know, I don't think he has any chewing issues.
Okay. If you guys do start to do more of those casseroles at home, you might try to add some stronger flavors to it, because when you have mixed textures, especially like a soup or something, it's pretty complicated because you have to hold the solid in your mouth and swallow the liquid and then chew the solid.
Okay.
And a lot of kids don't like things mixed together, but it can also be kind of a mechanical issue if that's difficult for him. Like, you say he's kind of stuffing, he might need a little bit more flavor to kind of feel that in his mouth too.
Okay.
Kind of in there.
That's good to know. Yeah, flavor. We don't have a problem adding flavor, and we have some flavors like Thai food. They like Thai food. We can get that one day. But we can definitely add more of that sort of thing. Sometimes I get lazy when I'm hurrying and not flavor it as much as it should be. But
in other cultures too, they have like spicier foods and things like that. We all think, and myself too with my own kids, more bland foods, but some kids do really like and need that more flavor.
He'll eat like jalapeno chips. So
this little guy needs some flavor.
Right. That's a good idea. I'll have to try some more flavor in things.
Yeah,
but yeah, then other than the sensory issue, like they're still in, Dana, I don't remember if you remember the high chairs that we had, but we have a red one that's more of a, it's kind of a big kid chair, but it has a seat. Like it's for a, it can fit, it's supposed to grow with you. It was a hand-me-down. And then we had one of those Fisher Price ones, and we haven't ever, we would like to, obviously by the time he's eating solids, at least move one of them to like the red chair and one of them to the booster or to a booster. But I didn't know if you had any recommendations on a good booster type seat, or any recommendations, should we do that already? Like that sort of thing. We eat together, but it's just having two of them, it's been easier to manage both of them when we have them in a seat.
I don't think there's a right or a wrong way to do that. I think they're eating well, it's working. I don't think you necessarily have to change it. Some kids do benefit from like being in a chair and up at the table with you for mealtime. It sounds like they're doing fine the way they are. I think you'd be good. I know that's not really an answer, but I feel like
I also wanted to make sure I wasn't like doing them a detriment by not putting them at the table necessarily already. I mean, Ellie's still really small, so she kind of needs to be in a high chair, or at least some sort of more structured, or else she falls through the chairs, or she can't reach the table, or that sort of thing.
And definitely thinking about that when she is sitting in things, because if you think about if our elbows are up like this and we're trying to eat like little preemies in the high chairs, usually the tray is so high.
Right.
So about that, whatever she's sitting in, just that she's, because we like to eat about elbow height is typically where our table is. So I guess just thinking about that if you change or when you change your seating.
And they're all sitting next to you, right?
Oh yeah. We have, I don't know if you remember our setup. So they're at the end of the table basically. And then I sit on one end on the bench, and then Scott sits on the other. We've actually found it's really funny because if we switch, like I sit in the chair and Scott sits on the bench, they end up being a little less cooperative during dinner. It's really funny, but Scott will be like, I'm going to go back to my spot because now they just think it's apparently playtime and we're going to throw our food or, do whatever, which they're not. They're just toddlers and they're exploring.
Yeah.
It's funny to see their behavior change if we do switch spots.
That is interesting. They notice the difference for sure.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions about the itty bitty ones?
Honestly, Ian's doing really well nursing. It's been a completely different experience having one that's full term instead of two that they're even 37 weeks. I feel like I did the trial and error thing, especially with Ellie. Like I tried every trick in the book, and he's been like a breeze in that way. He does have a little bit more gas and like burping, like he's hard to burp. And I don't know if that's just because he's still growing into himself, or my supply is evening out a little bit, but it was kind of an oversupply. So I think that might've been contributing to it, but I don't know if you have any recommendations for, more a baby that just is really hard to burp.
I don't have anything specific except for just trying different positions.
Yeah. And it's interesting because he doesn't burp like just by the pat on the back. A lot of times I'll rock him or I'll put him kind of on his tummy and rub his back and nothing will happen. And then I pick him up and all of a sudden it's like,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, he's doing just fine, but that would be like one feeding digestive issue that's been sort of a challenge so far. And when he's not, he's perfect. Like he'll sleep, but we can definitely tell when he's got a tummy issue going on.
I know a lot of parents try that gripe water.
Yeah.
Talking about that for that kind of thing.
Yeah. I thought about also doing a probiotic or something. I don't know if that would help at all.
Could. Gerber makes the one for infants.
Okay.
What is that called? I can't remember.
That's okay. I can always Google it.
I'm going to Google it right now and see if I can find it.
I didn't even know Gerber made it.
It's called Gerber Soothe.
Okay.
Yeah. That could be worth trying.
Okay. That's good to know. Yeah. I mean, there's different brands and I had no idea where to start. So that's a place. But yeah.
Can you guys type in the comment or the chat section your email? Jesse, I've got yours, but Melissa, if you have an email address,
Yeah, totally.
I have some Ellen Satter stuff that I could just send.
Oh, yay.
Yeah. I was
Yeah,
gonna
we
say
were kind of,
you'd probably be talking about whoever was on here, you'd probably mention her philosophy. And I remember we talked about it a little bit, but I never really got the full. So that was really helpful to hear everything. And I know she worked with my cousin too. So I know she had told her some of that to my cousin.
Oh, right. I forgot about that.
Yeah. And Gina. So we have all these random.
Oh my gosh. I forgot about her too. Holy cow.
yeah, and thanks, Jesse, now that we're talking, I'm like, okay, yeah, you've mentioned her name multiple times. I'm like sleep deprived and trying to remember, but it's good that we sat down and like my husband took notes, and now it's like, okay, we know we're motivated. I think part of the problem was his motivation before is we're just like, okay, we're pregnant, like
Right.
we
And give
know
yourself
that
some grace. You both have newborns, so I mean, give yourself grace with that too.
Yes.
You have to start this tomorrow.
No, you don't.
yeah, but it is that like the timing of this is very good because we have definitely experienced some changes we weren't quite anticipating with him with the transition, and we all have heightened anxiety right now because of that. I think especially Dad.
I feel great.
with
But then you add lack of sleep to that too, and that just makes everything harder.
Mhm.
yeah
But I
and
think one thing, like he is growing fine. So whatever it is that he's putting in his body is enough to do what it needs to do to grow and gain weight. So if in the next, 3 or 4 weeks of your life, in the grand scheme of things, if he's not trying new food, it's okay. He's going to be fine.
yeah okay.
Give yourself some time to adapt to another human.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting because we thought it would manifest in terms of like, I don't like the baby, or like, negativity towards the baby, but it's all just totally separate from him and more of just the refusal to do things that he would have done before or liked before, and just wanting total control over all of our behaviors. And
Yeah, I was braced for totally the wrong things.
yeah, we were feeling pretty prepared, and it was like, oh, there's all this behavior that we didn't ever predict would happen. And having family visiting for the last few days, you have to be like, I swear we're not just letting him run the house that much.
Yeah, that's hard when you
Normally.
have people there. Yeah.
But they get it too. My mom's like, I don't think you're you're doing those things. We know, we've been there. But hopefully that transition gets better now that this is our first full day away from family. So it's the first day that it's just our unit. So things are already.
I said props to them because I could not have had that much company. Like I would have been so grumpy.
If that's presuming I wasn't grumpy the whole time.
Well,
Yeah. there was grumpiness. But
And that's okay.
yeah.
but
Any other questions that you guys have?
I don't think so.
Oh, one more quick question about my newborn. So last night he was hungry, wanting to eat. There was like a 3-hour span where he just wanted to eat, like finish eating, try to rock him to sleep, and then he's rooting around again, wanting food. Like, what are your thoughts on feeding him when he's hungry versus encouraging him to wait a certain amount of time in the night?
That's a real kind of a hot topic. So I think it kind of depends on what your preference is, but I bet he's going through a growth spurt. That's what that sounds like, kind of that cluster feeding. They're usually wanting to do that when they're growing. So
Yeah.
I would be concerned that if you do that with him for this time, then he's going to want to eat every 5 minutes for the next 3 months. I think it's probably just a typical phase he's in right now.
Cool. Yeah, that's what Jesse and I were talking about yesterday, and what she was thinking too. And I'm like, I think, that's what it feels like, but I didn't know if that was common at, 6 days old, that they're already like
So,
They grow really
so-
fast in the beginning.
Yeah, so
Mhm.
he's gaining weight at like a rate of like an ounce a day at this point. So
Mhm.
he's growing fast. And
Yeah.
it's an ounce a day until about 3 months old. And then it slows down, like it progressively starts to slow down after that. But
Mhm.
his body is chomping at the bit to get bigger right now.
Yeah.
So I think,
Yeah.
you're watching his cues and you're respecting his hunger, and that's fantastic.
Okay.
Do what you feel comfortable with and not what other people are
Yeah.
saying or telling you. Just do what works for you as a mom.
Yeah. Yeah. I know there's different philosophies on that, and with my first one, I was very just like, okay, well, he seems hungry, so I'll feed him, and it worked out pretty well. But this, we're trying to be really careful this time because he started out in the NICU for 3 days, and
Okay.
he's kind of catching up from that, and assumed that's my mom intuition is just be like, he's just trying to make up for lost time where we didn't get to feed him when he wanted it in the NICU. So anyway,
Yeah.
okay.
I was going to ask you, and this is a totally not important question, but taking out a crystal ball, do we find if we have a particularly picky eater that we've got another one and that they will tend to follow the same
Nope.
path, or is it totally
Nope.
independent rolls
Depends
of
on
the
the
dice?
child.
It depends upon the kid.
Okay.
He's like, I can't do this for another 2 years.
We'll have a better strategy going forward.
That's
Many times the little siblings teach the older siblings how to eat.
yes, that is handy to have a little sibling
Uh-huh.
that eats a lot and eats, or not eats well, but eats well and a variety of foods. And yeah.
Very good.
Good to know. Yeah, this is definitely felt like reinforcement of the info we've been hearing, which is
With
is
some
definitely
new
good.
tweaks that I think will enable.
Yeah,
things.
it's very good to hear though, because yeah, it just feels like, well, that hasn't been working and it's this far along. Should we be veering off to this course? But it's good to hear that it could take as long as it takes,
Mm-hmm.
but that it
Yeah.
can work. So
It can work. Meal times are
We'll hang in
fun,
there.
aren't it? It's
Yeah, and the
supposed to be
family style
easy.
thing.
sorry, what, Dana?
Meal times are supposed to be easy, but they sure aren't sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
They're oftentimes the most stressful part of the day for us,
Yeah.
at least, especially. And it's not because they won't eat. It's just because there's just, it feels like there's so much going on. And, we're trying to teach them appropriate table manners and all of that stuff too. And at the same time, they need this, like,
Mhm.
I know some days it's like super calm and easy. Other days it's like, I want to pull my hair out.
Yeah. Definitely not something I anticipated with motherhood, because I think my siblings were all really rather easy, and my parents just had the attitude of, well, they're only a picky eater if you let them be a picky eater. And that's kind of their attitude about things. It's like, I don't know.
A few generations ago, that was really a common thing that families did.
Mhm. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you guys for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Adios,
Yeah.
Dana, it was good to see you again.
You too, Jesse. I'm glad you guys are doing well.
Yeah, thanks. I guess I don't have my phone. I would show you a picture, but you email me and I'll email
Yeah.
you a picture.
And you've probably still got my phone number, so.
Yeah, actually, I think I do. I think I saw it pop up the other day when I was typing somebody else's name and I'm like, oh, I still have her number. But anyways.
Well, I will email a few things and like links to her website. There's some nice pamphlets that you can order for like $5 off her website that do a nice job of kind of laying it all out. And if you're a reader of books, she has some really great books as well. There's some webinars that she has done for parents that have been, I've not watched any of the parent ones, but I've watched some of the additional professional ones. And they do a nice job of laying the information out. So if any of that stuff is stuff you're interested in, I will send you the links to it so you can look at it.
Cool.
Yes. Yeah. And I think I looked for her stuff at the library the first time, Jesse, that you mentioned, Ellen Satter, and I couldn't find it, but my husband's looking it up right now, and it looks like it's an option on Libby. So woo!
There you go.
Library lovers.
Perfect.
Yay! Yeah,
Is
I
it,
can
what
find
is
it
the
in
book that's available? Does it say?
Child of Mine.
So that is one that would be really great since you have an infant, and then it
Mhm.
goes through older. And then there's another one called Secrets of Feeding a Healthy Family or something like that. That's
Mhm.
really great for the older ones.
Okay. Cool. Well, we've got note of it here,
Yeah.
but I would definitely love those resources that you
Yeah, for sure.
mentioned in the email.
For sure.
Cool.
All right. Well, thanks for
Well,
joining.
thank you so much.
Thank you guys. We'll see you later.
Bye. Have a good day.
Bye.
Thank you. You
Thanks.
too. This has been awesome.
Good.
Bye-bye.
Well, that was nice. Whoops.